Okay, welcome to Say What I Mean. Back to politics. Now, this is a story that I find really interesting. Last week, James Clyburn, the majority whip, the third ranking Democrat in the House of Representatives, the highest ranking Democrat in Congress, stated that Biden have fallen short in selecting black people to cabinet positions. Now, when he said this, at the time, there was only Linda Thomas Greenfield that was selected as the UN secretary. So it was only one black woman selected to the cabinet. But since then, there's a black man that's been selected as the assistant treasury secretary, and a black woman was chosen to head the Council of Economic Advisors. But overall, the cabinet don't have as many black people and is not as diverse as many people would like. Now, the reason why I find this interesting and why a lot of other people will find this interesting as well, Clyburn saved Biden campaign because if you go back to the primaries, I know that seemed like forever and a day ago, but just travel back in time with me a little bit at the beginning of the year. Biden was getting cleaned up in the early contest. He was losing and losing pretty badly. The first two contests, I think he was finishing like in fourth and fifth place. He's finished in second in Nevada, but he still got blown out by Bernie Sanders there. And it looked like he might have to drop out. But when it came to South Carolina, Clyburn saved him with that endorsement because people forget there was somebody in the race by the name of Tom Steyer who was polling pretty good with black voters. But that Clyburn endorsement propelled Biden not only to a blowout win in South Carolina, but propelled them to a knockout blow on Super Tuesday. After Super Tuesday, it was clear that Biden was going to be the nominee. Now, it was only about 3 days from South Carolina where all these states voted on Super Tuesday. And Biden outperformed his polls immensely. And the reason why he outperformed his polls was because of all the positive press he got for such a blowout win. Because Biden won South Carolina by more than expected. And a lot of it is owed to Clyburn. So the fact that Clyburn is disappointed so far in his cabinet says a lot. But I feel a few different ways about this. First, let me just get this out of the way. I'm not a big fan of Biden, and I'm not a big fan of Clyburn either. Neither one of them are my type of politicians. Of course, I voted for Biden because Trump had to go, but overall, I'm not a huge Joe Biden fan. Same thing with Clyburn. I'm not a big fan of his either. But with that being said, um, you would have thought that Clyburn could have extracted these concessions of black members in his cabinet once he gave that endorsement, because Biden really needed that. I say the same thing with Bernie Sanders because Bernie Sanders running around wanting to be the labor secretary. You would have thought he would have been able to get that with his endorsement of Biden. But you never know. Biden might have promised Clyburn that he would appoint so many black people to his cabinet and might have just went back and reneged on his word. I mean, this is politics, you know, breaking news, people lie all the time. So that definitely is a possibility. We have to change the way we ask for stuff and the way we negotiate when it comes to politics. Too often, when it comes to black people in politics, we negotiate for representation. Now, I'm not one of those people that think representation and symbolism don't matter at all, because I do think that um, it's a lot of things that we pick up in our subconscious that we're not even aware of. So when children never see black people in these positions, it's associated with a white position. A lot of times that happens subconsciously. We don't even know. If you ever read about the black doll test that happened in the 50s before Brown versus the Board of Education, And it was another dog test that happened again in 2010 with similar results, about how the black dog was seen as uglier, was seen as less smart, and a lot of that just picked up subconsciously. So representation is important. It's important to see black people in positive positions on TV. It's important to see black people in positive positions just around your city and in your neighborhood. So having us in these high profile positions is good. It is. It is. So I think sometimes people go too far to say that symbolism and representation doesn't mean anything. Um, I'm not on that, but it's not the end all, the be all. It is definitely not more important than actual policy. Actual policy is much more important than symbolism. So with I'm not mad at Clyburn for asking for more representation in the cabinet, but along with that, he should have been asking for specific policies as well. For example, he could have asked, um, along with more representation, for whoever the Secretary of Agriculture to push heavily and support the Black Farming Bill that's in Congress right now. I mean, for those of you who don't know about the Black Farming Bill in Congress, which I would assume a lot of people don't because it's not covered on the mainstream media. They don't really cover issues like this. It's a very important bill that could help with generational wealth for Black people. I guess, well, specifically for Black farmers in rural areas. It's a very important bill dealing with acres of land, and it could be a game changer for Black people in the farming industry, which, you know, I can't even stress how important that is. It's an issue that we don't talk about, but it's highly important. And again, it can have major impact on a lot of Black people in a positive way. So, um, demanding that they push for that in Congress, demanding that Biden and his administration make that a top priority. That's just one example. Another example to make sure whoever at the DOJ or whoever the Attorney General is support doing something about qualified immunity. What is qualified immunity? Well, that's basically how these police officers been able to get away with killing unarmed Black people because of what a reasonable person would do. That need to be changed. It need to be changed now. We need people at the DOJ that understand that. We also need the administration to understand that there are bills in Congress already to address police brutality and police reform. You don't like the term defund the police? Fine. Make up another term. You know, because Biden already said he doesn't support defund the police. Fine, you can call it whatever you want to, but the policies need to be followed. So that's what I mean by that. Um, he could propose whoever the head of HUD, Housing and Urban Development, to address historical redlining, help build wealth through homes in Black communities. They could go back to the first time home buyer grants, maybe raising the money for that, or even giving grants to Black people that already own their home so they can remodel it and up the property value. Um, we could improvement in infrastructure in Black neighborhoods, um, without causing gentrification. There's a bunch of different stuff. That's my point. There's a bunch of different policy issues that we'll never hear about that we could be demanding. And when we ask for representation, the representation should be whoever the head of that particular cabinet position, that particular department in the federal government support issues like this. That's where the focus should be, and not just simply on representation. Too often, that conversation just get focused on representation without the policies to follow that. It does me no good for somebody to have my same complexion, but advocating for policies that's going to hurt people that look like me. Does no good at all. It's kind of like the Reagan trickle-down economics, never really trickled down to the masses. Same thing sometimes with some of these black people in these high-profile positions. It doesn't really trickle down to the masses of black people, especially if you're not fighting for particular policies. That's what I care about. So I just wanted to leave y'all with that. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe, like the channel, share the video. I'm definitely trying to get messages like I stated in this video out there, because there are not too many outlets talking about things like this, especially in the mainstream media. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.